Have you ever considered what it would be like if we suddenly lost the ability to hear the voices of the past? Imagine a world where all the great stories ever written were locked away in a room where no one held the key. We often think of history as something found in dusty books or old museums, but there is a living, breathing history that exists in the air around us whenever a group of people pick up instruments to play. Think about the last time you sat in a crowded room and felt a sudden, deep connection to a stranger sitting next to you. It does not happen often in our modern world of screens and solo headphones. We are living in a time where we are constantly entertained but rarely truly moved. We have thousands of songs in our pockets, yet we often use them as a shield to block out the world rather than a bridge to connect with it. We tend to view classical music as a relic, like an old building that is nice to look at but has no place in our fast-paced lives. But what if these sounds are not just old notes? What if they are a vital heartbeat that we need now more than ever? Today we are going to explore why a 300-year-old melody can tell you more about your own life than the latest viral video. We are going to look at the hidden power of the orchestra and why the act of listening together might be the very thing that saves our shared humanity. To understand this, we have to look past the surface and see what is actually happening when a violin bow touches a string or a trumpet player takes a breath. On the surface, the concept of an orchestra can seem very formal and perhaps a bit distant. You see people dressed in black, sitting very still, playing music that was written by people who have been dead for centuries. The surface idea is that this is a refined hobby for a specific group of people who enjoy the quiet and the tradition. Many people think classical music is just something relaxing to have on in the background while they study or cook dinner. They see it as a beautiful decoration for the ears. We often view the instruments themselves as just tools, forgetting that a violin made in the year 1713 is a piece of history that has survived wars, revolutions, and the passage of time. When we look at an orchestra from the outside, we see a group of individuals who have spent tens of thousands of hours mastering a craft. It looks like a display of elite skill. But this surface view misses the most important part of the experience. It misses the journey that the music is taking us on. Every note has a direction, and every harmony has a purpose. It is not just a passive sound, it is an active conversation between the past and the present. When you sit in a concert hall, you are not just a customer, you are a participant in a grand human experiment. Behind this surface view lies a hidden assumption that music is just a product to be consumed. In our modern world, we often assume that if something is old, it must be less relevant than what is new. We have a hidden bias that says innovation is always better than tradition. This assumption makes us treat classical music like a museum piece rather than a living force. We also assume that our differences, like our age, our race, or our political views, are the most important things about us. We spend so much time focusing on what makes us different that we forget what makes us the same. The hidden truth of the concert hall is that for those 60 or 90 minutes, those differences disappear. You are sitting next to someone you might never talk to on the street, yet you are both feeling the same surge of triumph or the same pang of sorrow from a melody. We assume that Beethoven is just a name on a bust, but the hidden reality is that his music is filled with an attitude and a raw power that rivals any modern protest song. We assume that beauty is a luxury, but the truth is that beauty is a necessity for the human spirit. When we ignore these masterworks, we are not just skipping a concert, we are losing a part of our collective memory. This leads us to a structural pattern that we see in how we educate our children and build our communities. There is a pattern of moving away from deep, disciplined learning toward quick, easy results. In many schools, music programs are the first things to be cut when budgets get tight. This is a structural mistake because an orchestra is one of the greatest teachers of life. In an orchestra, a child learns a specific kind of structural harmony. They learn that their individual voice matters, but it matters most when it is part of something bigger than themselves. They learn the structure of listening. You cannot play well in an orchestra if you are not listening to the person next to you. This pattern of mutual respect and shared discipline is exactly what our society is struggling with right now. If we look at the numbers, the impact of music education is clear. Research from the Arts Education Data Project shows that while 92% of students in public schools have access to music education, there are still millions of students, particularly in under-resourced communities, who do not. Students who participate in high-quality music programs often perform better in other subjects and show higher levels of social-emotional growth. Despite this, we often prioritize sports over the arts. We have a structure that supports thousands of youth baseball teams but far fewer youth orchestras. This structural imbalance sends a message to our children that competition is more important than cooperation and that physical strength is more valuable than emotional depth. We can reframe our entire perspective by seeing the orchestra not as a group of musicians, but as a love letter to our planet and our history. Instead of seeing classical music as boring or elite, we can reframe it as a powerful soundtrack for our own lives. These pieces of music become our friends. They take on deeper meanings every time we hear them. We can reframe the concert hall as a sacred space for shared focus in an age of constant distraction. It is a place where we can experience a transformation from darkness to light, just as Beethoven did in his symphonies. We can reframe the work of the composer as a way of capturing the most poignant moments of the human story. When we hear a piece about regret or mercy, we are hearing a reflection of our own hearts. This reframing allows us to see that the Bach and Mozart of the past are not so different from the creative minds of today. They were all trying to solve the same puzzle: how do we make sense of the storm and the sunshine of being alive? By looking at music through this lens, we realize that without the performers, the music is just a pile of paper with dots. The orchestra is the engine that brings that paper to life. Applying this to our daily life starts with the way we listen. We can apply the discipline of the orchestra to our own relationships by learning to truly hear the people around us. We can make a conscious effort to support music education in our own towns. Imagine if every child had the chance to feel the blast of playing in a large group. We can apply this by seeking out live music experiences that challenge us rather than just comfort us. Instead of always choosing the music that is easy to listen to, we can spend time with a piece that takes 3 hours to tell its story. This builds our capacity for patience and depth. We can also apply this by treating beauty as a serious part of our day. Take 5 minutes to listen to a Schubert melody and notice how it changes your mood. We can encourage our communities to value youth orchestras as much as we value little league teams. This is not about making every child a professional musician. It is about giving every child the gift of discipline, beauty, and teamwork. When we play together, we learn that triumph is much sweeter when it is shared. It is important to reflect on what we would lose if these sounds disappeared. If we stop supporting orchestras, we are essentially locking the Mona Lisa in a dark closet. We are letting the soundtracks of our humanity fade into silence. This is not just about a job for musicians, it is about the health of our culture. We need the storm of Mozart and the redemption of Beethoven to remind us that our struggles have meaning. The world is often a noisy and divided place, but the orchestra offers a different model. It shows us that hundreds of people can work in perfect sync to create something that none of them could do alone. This is a miracle of human cooperation. Every time a young person joins a youth symphony, they are joining a tradition that stretches back centuries and forward into the future. They are learning that even a small note can change the entire color of a harmony. We must protect this legacy for the next generation so that they, too, can find their friends in the melodies of the past. Music is a universal language that does not require a translation. It speaks directly to the soul, bypassing all the walls we build around ourselves. As we think about the value of this art form, we have to ask ourselves what kind of world we want to leave behind for our children. Do we want a world of background noise, or a world filled with purpose and passion? If you could give a child one gift that would teach them how to listen to the world with their heart and how to be part of something grander than their own life, would you choose the silence of a screen or the thunder of 100 instruments playing in perfect unison?